What's up, guys? Welcome to the Coach Fitzz podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition so you can get leaner, stronger, and become more energized. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons. Let's get it started. Right. I guess this is going out Monday. So Monday, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Let's jump right in. Today's episode is basically going to be called Mythbusters. I think that's what I'll call it. Like the top three of the top fitness myths there are out there when it comes to fitness or nutrition or anything like that. We're going to be busting some myths today because that seems to be one of those things that people really love getting your hot take on. Yeah. So we're going to roll with it. Just see what I can ramble on about. I picked my top three and I have a list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's after eliminating these three. So I had 10 myths and I'm just going to keep it going. If you guys can think of any other myths that I don't mention, feel free to either leave it in a review after you leave that 5-star review, just mention like, can you talk about this? Or you could just DM me on any of the socials, TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, or send it at coachfitz1@gmail.com. And that'll work too. But we'll start off with what I got so far. And before we dive in, little intro. I just got done wrapping up the enrollment week for my Fit 40 program. That's a program specifically designed for women over the age of 40 who are trying to get leaner, gain some strength, and feel incredible in 12 weeks. So, as a little bonus for you guys listening to the podcast, if this is like the first you're hearing about it, I will reserve a spot for you. You just say, I just heard on the podcast, you send me a message and we'll go from there. I got you. Don't worry. Then, now that I got the promotion out of the way, onto the fun stuff. For those of you that haven't heard, there is a series coming out that I am so pumped for, beyond pumped, because being I guess you could call it sci-fi fantasy fan that I am when it comes to movies, big fan of Harry Potter, big fan of Star Wars, also very big fan of Lord of the Rings. And coming soon is the Rings of Power that Amazon Prime is putting out. And this is going to be huge. I don't know, like I'm praying to God that it is a really well-written one. They borrowed guys from Game of Thrones, and this is all new material. Like Tolkien did not write this, so it should be very interesting to see this adaptation. And they threw a ton of money at it. It is officially the most expensive TV show that has ever been produced. That's ahead of Game of Thrones. That's ahead of all the other ones. Like they greenlit it for 5 seasons before the first episode even aired. So this is, I'm so pumped. Cannot wait. I'll make my girlfriend sit there and suffer through it, and while I am enjoying every minute of it. And in other great things to come news, I heard or saw a rumor. I don't know if this is confirmed or not. There's a rumor that Sony saw all of the feedback from all 3 Spider-Man being in the most recent Spider-Man movie and how much people loved it. And now they want to make a movie that is with those 3 Spider-Men specifically and give them their own movie or multiple movies. So if that ends up being true, also super hyped about that, because the little kid in me got very excited when Tobey Maguire popped on the screen and Andrew Garfield too. Like Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man, but that was one of those moments where it hit you right in the feels. And for anybody that hadn't seen Spider-Man by now, get with the program. I don't even care that I spoiled it. Go see it. And keeping up with Peacemaker and Boba Fett and Ozark right now, the ones that I've been mentioning pretty much every single week. Just actually watched Peacemaker right before hopping on this podcast. And I got to say, each week keeps getting better and better. I'm not going to give anything away, even though it's Monday by now. You should have already watched it if you're keeping up with me. The ending, when someone finds out about a certain someone that blew my mind, and I can't wait to see how it goes into the next one. I don't know if that person is going to die or if they're going to take them hostage. Should be very interesting. And then Boba Fett, what can I say? It's merging. It's getting good. Again, I'm hoping this isn't a spoiler, but the combination of it all, oh my God, I'm getting very, if you can't tell, I'm excited. And then Ozark, I'm behind on this one. So anybody that's already seen it, I am at the point where, what's the most recent thing that happened? The most recent thing is they walked in to try to get their casino up and running, and the FBI guy wanted them to bribe the gaming commission, a person that is doing the investigation, and the wife sniffed it out immediately. So she's proving to be an extremely great asset, which is great because she kind of started off like the wife from Breaking Bad. You just hate her. You just don't like her, but she's redeeming herself. She's proving her worth. And she's definitely coming back strong. And last but not least, I wanted to mention some of the, because I took a break from the Crucial Conversations book. It's great, but like I want to really like listen in, and a lot of stuff's been going on with the enrollment this week, so my mind's been elsewhere. I want to save it for when I'm listening. So instead, I'm listening to these podcasts, which I always cycle through. I have my favorites. So I figured, why not just let you guys know? So once you're done listening to this, you can go and check their stuff out. So first and foremost is Mind Pump. They're the number one fitness podcast out there by far. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. They're like a monopoly of the fitness podcast space. Yes, there's others, but they're miles ahead of everybody. So, and for good reason. The three or four of them are so knowledgeable, so funny. They provide an amazing listening experience, and they answer a lot of the stuff like I'm going to talk about today. So definitely go check them out. There's also the Jordan Syat mini podcast, which is, he's one of my first mentors, like groups that I entered in when I went off on my own doing this online coaching thing. And his mini podcast is awesome because it really kind of highlights the relationship between the online coach and the client, because he brings successful clients on all the time and talks about their experience and what they learned, which is awesome, especially for somebody listening in that is a client of somebody else, or they're on their own fitness journey and they think, I feel so alone, or I feel like I'm doing all this wrong. It's like confirmation that you're not alone. Many people struggle with the exact same things. So if you're interested in that, or just the guests that he brings on that I find very interesting, definitely worth checking it out. And third, which is like the OG of training in any capacity, online or YouTube videos or anything like that, is the Joe DeFranco Industrial Strength Show. He is incredible. What can I say? There's a reason that these people, like even Jordan Syat's been in the game for like, I think about like 10, 15 years, if you really count from the beginning of when they started helping people online. Joe DeFranco, he's the guy that has been there from the very beginning, since like YouTube started, and he got huge, and he's still going strong for a reason. The guy's a wealth of knowledge, and he's got the experience to back it up, which a lot of people you listen to on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, they'll cite research, they'll say what they read in a book, but then they have no experience to back it up. And that's one of the reasons I love the Industrial Strength Show. And another reason I like Mind Pump too, because they'll cite the research and they'll tell you what the textbooks say, but then they'll bring in experiences that they have had that either prove or disprove or tell you like what it's worth, really. And that's what I hope to bring you guys in this as well, because I'm going on like 7 years now of personal training, and I've been doing everything I can to learn as much as I possibly can. I'm not that trainer that still uses like the methods that they used back in the 80s and 90s and clearly doesn't value their craft enough to learn. So that is what I think everybody should be looking for when it comes to fitness advice. Find somebody that knows their shit and has actually been in it at least a minimum of 5 years. Like I'm again 7 years in and I still feel like I'm learning something new every day. I still feel like a beginner. But I think that's kind of like, at least from listening to these guys, that seems to be the trend. If you don't feel like a beginner most of the time, you're probably way too overconfident in your abilities and you're not learning enough. Because the more you learn what you don't know, which is how we talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. It seems like almost every episode. The people that think they know the most usually know the least. And the people that know the most usually feel like they don't have a clue, but they know enough to be effective. So yeah, go check them out. Mind Pump, Jordan Syat mini podcast, and the Industrial Strength Show. Now, on to the myth busting. The first one is, I'll frame this as, I'll just say it. It's feeling the need to do a detox or a fast or hop to a new diet every time you hit a plateau. Let's start with establishing what the hell a plateau is. A lot of people think a plateau is the slowing down while still losing weight. It just like kind of slows down. So for example, somebody hops on keto or paleo and they lose 5, 6, 7 pounds that first week. And then they lose maybe 3 or 4 the next week. Then they lose 1 or 2 the next week. And then they hit that spot where they like bounce between 1-ish pounds, maybe half a pound a week. And they think, oh, it's just not working anymore. When in reality, that's what you should have been aiming for in the first place. When you lose that much weight right off the bat, it means it is too restrictive. Or sometimes you see that with people who have certain issues when it comes to digestion, when it comes to like certain things that they have an autoimmune response to, like people that have celiac or stuff like that. All of a sudden they cut out something that has been pissing their body off for so long and they lose all that bloat that came with it and they lose all this weight, but it's not really fat. It's bloat that could have been gone anyway. It's just from cutting that food out, not from that specific diet. So if you want to experiment with that, try an elimination style diet and then see if it works. You don't have to do like some crazy detox or fast or jumping onto a new thing, because at the end of the day, all of these methods are a way to restrict your body. And if you're just trying every possible way to restrict, that's going to lead to disordered eating patterns, which is never good in the long run, because then the relationship with food is just beyond messed up. You think, oh, and especially with these methods that demonize certain foods, you're like, oh, I could just never have a carb again. I could just never have a vegetable again because I've been doing carnivore. Oh, I can't have red meat anymore because the vegans said that the healthiest thing to do is to cut out all meat entirely. And then you're left with nothing. And then you feel like, what the hell's real? And then you're in this place of like helplessness. So don't feel like you ever need to cut things out, like you ever have to like completely flip the script every single time that you want to get some sort of results. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters when you put it all down on paper, if you were to measure your calories at the end of the week, assuming that you don't have anything pissing off your gut, assuming that you're not on some sort of medication or have some sort of medical issue that would get in the way of fat loss, the calories tell the whole story. It will tell you which way the scale is going to go. And then to put yourself in the best position possible, when you're training, your sleep, your protein intake is all adequate, you can assume that the majority of that is going to be fat. Now, if it's not, then you could assume that more likely some of that is lean body mass, but calories tell you the whole story. So if you're confused as to why none of these methods really have a rhyme or reason as to why they quote unquote work, go ahead and look at the calories, because let's take them for what they're worth. Detox and fasting are literally starving yourself. If you were to take the entirety of your week, so every single day that you, like Monday through Sunday, that you eat or don't eat, take that whole total. So for simplicity's sake, let's say it's like you're eating 10,000 calories throughout the week. If you do a detox or a fast, for one of those days, or we'll make it 7,000 calories because that's going to make this a lot easier. 7,000 calories. Now you take one of those days and eliminate 1,000 calories because 7,000 divided by 7 days in the week, 1,000. Now you're at 6,000 calories. You just cut your calories, which resulted in weight loss. That's what happens. That's to be expected. But a lot of times when you do these fasts or detox, it comes off like you're losing a crap ton of weight when it really is just that your stomach is empty. You know, you're using all the glycogen stores in your body. So your muscle is not holding on to as much glycogen, which also binds to water, which combines to create weight. And when you don't have that in there, that's that much more weight that you don't have in your body. And then the second you do eat some sort of carb, you hydrate yourself, it all comes flooding right back. Does that mean you gained fat? Absolutely not. It's just your body refilling stores that should be full anyway for you to feel like a real human that has energy throughout the day. So there's no magic to this. And then when it comes to different dieting methods, it's if you're hopping constantly and you do manage to lose weight, it's usually a race to the bottom. So by the time you get to the point where you want to be, you're on the most restrictive diet you could possibly imagine, to the point where your metabolism is completely, I'm not going to say wrecked because that's a little extreme, but your metabolism is so slowed down that for you to get back to a baseline level that you could actually live at and not feel like you're completely starving every single day or eating next to nothing, you'd have to reverse diet for a long time. There have been some people that have had to reverse diet because they've been like extreme competitors in bodybuilding or something like that, who have had to reverse diet for a year, 18 months just to get their metabolism in a place that would be considered healthy. So you don't want to have to do that. The more balanced of an approach and the less restrictive you are and the more you enjoy it, that's the real tell. If you can enjoy the whole process, and not from the weight loss, but from the energy that you gain from the new, like from the new foods that you're taking in, more vegetables, more protein, and how incredible you feel doing that and hydrating yourself and getting better sleep, that's how you know you're on the right track. Not because you're suffering with the keto flu and you're like, I really gotta suffer to get these results. You don't have to suffer. I'll say it again. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to earn it like some hardos try to tell you online, because they're in the same mindset that's flawed. So don't feel like you have to do anything crazy. Balanced approach, calorie deficit that results in half a pound to maybe 2 pounds a week, and ride it. And then you know what happens when you do hit a plateau? Plateau being you don't lose any weight for like 3 to 4 weeks, not just a day where you had a bad weigh in, waiting like 3 to 4 weeks to see if it's a real plateau. Then you take away 200, 300 calories and see what happens. And that's how you go about it. You don't do these complete slashes in your diet. So yeah, I'm already starting to get heated. This is great. First question or first topic down, and my blood pressure is through the roof. I just get very angry when it comes to these marketing quick fixes and bullshit and people buying into it, because we're better than this. You're better than this. Topic number 2, body part splits to grow the most muscle. This comes from the old school method of bodybuilding where it's like, and some of you might be doing it now. Monday is chest, Tuesday is back, Wednesday is Wednesday is legs, Thursday is arms, Friday is shoulders, and you just repeat that cycle over and over and over again. While this is a good place to start, it's not a bad method, but it's nowhere near the best, purely for the sake of volume. When it comes to volume, you want somewhere north of 9 to 10 sets. Somewhere around 9 to 10 sets at the minimum for muscle growth. So let's take that and apply it to this method where it's like, we'll say chest day. You need 10 sets throughout the week to get the best results possible. So do you do all 10 sets in one go? You could break that into 4 sets of bench press, 4 sets of flies, another 2-3 sets of some other chest exercise, and that could work. However, when you do that approach, it results in what is known as junk volume, because The other thing to consider is intensity level. You need to be doing these sets at a certain intensity, which would be about an RPE 8 or 9. That means you like out of 10. So if you're doing an RPE 8, that means if you were to push to absolute failure, you would stop 2 reps short of that. Or for 9, it would be 1 rep short of that. Now imagine doing that 4 times. That's just not going to happen, because if it does, one of 2 things happened. One, that was not an RPE 8. The weight was way too light and you had more left in the tank. Or 2, you'll be forced to lighten the weight up and use less than your best, or you're going to push through and get some ugly ass reps that are going to be pushing you past failure and destroy your recovery. But because you have all week to recover, you're like, what do I care? Well, when you do that and your recovery is not as optimal, you don't get the best results. So now you've got, out of those 10 sets, say like 5 of them were junk volume, like junk sets. That's a 5 out of 10 effort right there. You're going to get 5 out of 10 effort results. Now let's break that up. Say you do like 4 sets of chest on Monday, 3 sets on Wednesday, 3 sets on Friday. Now you had a whole day to recover in between and get the most you possibly can out of these sets. So you're getting a 10 out of 10 effort, which is going to get you 10 out of 10 results. That's the way to do it. So whether that be through a full body approach where you do like how I just laid it out, or even like an upper lower split. So Monday is upper, Tuesday is lower, Thursday is upper, Friday is lower, and run it like that, where you do 4 or 5 sets on Monday, 4 or 5 sets on Thursday for your upper body stuff. And then same for lower. You're still going to get really good results because you have that moment in time to rest and fully adapt and get the most bang for your buck, because that's what we're going for, is adaptation. When you destroy your muscles and you're constantly sore all the time, the adaptation that's occurring is so half-assed. It is so subpar compared to actually feeling good when you go into the gym and feeling like you're fully rested and then crushing it over and over and over again. That's where you get the best results. So if that's your goal and you're up for trying a new approach, because I know some people do get very tied to their methods and the way that they do things. Not saying it's not going to work. It will work. It has worked for many, many people, but a lot of the people that are preaching it with the best results are those that have been enhanced by steroids and everything like that. So no matter what they do, it's going to work. But for the natural average person, doing the approach that I laid out to get the best benefits possible, that's the way to do it. So take it for what it's worth. If you want to give it a try, give it a try. The 3 or 4 days of full body, or 4 to 6 days, or 4 to 6 days of the upper lower, or something like a push pull legs, where you do your push stuff on Monday, pull stuff on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, and then repeat for Wednesday, Thursday. Or no, sorry. Then you take a, God, I'm losing my place now. We did legs on Wednesday. So Thursday would be where you pick it back up. Thursday would be push. Friday would be pull. And then Saturday would be legs. And then that results in really, really good adaptation, because again, we're getting that rest. So if you did push on Monday and then not again until Thursday, that's a ton of time where your body can acclimate and do its thing and build more muscle. Because if you're constantly breaking it down, your body does not build anything. It's just praying to God that you stop. You're just beating it up. It's like your body is like feeling like it's abused. So you got to feed it. You got to make sure you get adequate sleep. You got to make sure that your stress outside of the gym is managed as best as you can. You got to hydrate and do all the things that put your body in an environment to get the best bang for your buck and get that full adaptation. And I think I covered that in detail. Last but not least, this might be one of the things I get the most pissed about, is when I hear somebody say the words, oh, sumo deadlifts are cheating, or like, oh, partial range of motion isn't the best, like, or shitting on a specific exercise because they think that there's a real way to do it, like not doing bench press all the way to your chest, or not squatting until your butt taps your heels. This is, again, one of those things that is pushed by these egomaniacs that think they're super duper hardos that want to dictate how everybody lifts because they think there's only one way to do things. Well, if you ever want to know when somebody is completely full of shit, if they jump all in on something and say there's no other way, this is the way to do it, they really don't know what they're talking about. Because, for starters, when you select an exercise, you only have a certain range of motion, which would be deemed an authentic range of motion, where you're like we'll use the shoulder as an example. Your God, your humerus can only go to a certain point without your shoulder rolling forward. So when you're bench pressing, say your arm is coming down, 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 that elbow is going down. It eventually gets to a point where you can't go any further. Now, you might be touching your chest and you might be in a really good spot and then bang it back up and no problem. That's great. You see that a lot with guys or girls that have very short arms and very big chests. That's why they're such good bench pressers, because they can do this at a really high frequency without beating up their body and beating up their joints. But you get someone like me, or somebody that's like an NBA athlete or a volleyball player who have really long arms. I'm not in that category, but mine are just long enough to show this. But if they have really long arms and they bring it down to their chest, then they have to compensate by rolling their shoulder forward. And then when they do that, the head of the humerus is pushing against the socket and creating this effect. It's almost like you're punching yourself in the shoulder over and over and over again, and you're beating up the joint. And on top of that, not just that motion, but now you're adding a ton of weight, potentially maxing out. That's the stuff that creates injuries. People trying to be like, oh, I'm doing the real way. No, that's the real way to the physical therapist's office. And another thing that gets thrown around is, oh, you can lift however you want as long as the load's appropriate. To which I say, have you ever trained anybody in your life? For like anybody that I've ever seen get hurt in the gym, it's because they went way too heavy with really shitty form. Plain and simple. And not in the moment. It wasn't some gigantic like pop. No, that's not how a lot of gym injuries go. Gym injuries happen from repeated abuse to the joint over and over again with inadequate recovery, and then coming back and trying a load or into a range of motion that they are not familiar with. So you'll see a lot of people in like the academic space saying, oh, you can do a deadlift, like a conventional deadlift with a really bent back. And as long as you manage load appropriately, then you're fine. But then you see completely contrary in the gym, the people that always have back pain when they do deadlifting or something, all of a sudden you straighten out their back and now they're doing it pain-free. And it's like, so who's right? I mean, that's the stuff where you miss context. When you bury your head in research and you don't actually train people, or you just don't have a big exposure pool, like you work with the same type of client who, like, for example, powerlifters, these people have been pushing through pain and creating these micro adaptations to the point where, yes, they can deadlift with a really rounded back because their spine has, like, I guess the right word would be like calcified, like bone growth to the point where it can support that level of strain. In that case, yes, you can say, yeah, that's what did it. But that doesn't work for everybody. The people that you see doing that are usually the outliers, usually those people that are the reason that programs like the Bulgarian method or like the 10 by 10 or these insane volume powerlifting protocols exist, is because they're the ones that made it through. A lot of times what you don't see when it comes to these training protocols, when you have these insane volume, like the insane level of volume, the crazy amount of work and the loads that are on top of that, the only reason that they make it into the limelight are because the people that it worked for are like Olympians, because they outlasted it. What they don't tell you about is the long list of people that got destroyed by that programming that didn't make it to the Olympics because they were in so much pain or they got hurt, which is the majority of people. So when it comes to loading and all of that, I'm sorry, but you got to find the right version that works for you. So whether that be sumo deadlifting, or say you do want to do conventional deadlifting, that's fine, but find where you can go with a flat back, because a flat back is going to be more mechanically advantageous. It's like lifting with a battering ram instead of a fishing pole. Imagine that fishing pole with a fish on the end of it and it's all bent. Okay, it's not that strong, but battering ram, it's not moving. And then when you find that point where you can't go any lower while maintaining a straight back from your lumbar all the way up to your shoulders, when you can't go any further without bending your lower back, that's right where you want to be. You don't want to have to compensate in any way, shape, or form. And for some people, that does mean that you're going to have to put some blocks underneath the bar, or you're going to have to do like a version of RDLs where you just don't touch anything, you float it and don't go quite as low. And that would keep you in that authentic range of motion, from which over time, if you want to try and work on your mobility and take like levels away and improve your mobility, you could do that. That's one way to do it. But doing it right off the bat is just stupid, and it's ego. It's nothing more than that. So find a version that works for you. If you can't do barbell bench press, you don't have to. You could grab a Swiss bar. You could grab dumbbells. You could do it with cables. It really all comes down to 4 things to find what's perfect for you. First thing is, does it match up with your goals? If your goal is to get the most muscle possible, barbell bench, barbell back squat, and barbell conventional deadlifting or sumo deadlifting especially are not good choices. They're just not, because they don't provide a good range of motion, because the emphasis is on getting as much load as you can. And if you want to lift the most weight possible, you reduce range of motion. That's just the name of the game. So if you're a power lifter, makes total sense. If you're trying to build muscle, very dumb. Just doesn't line up with the goals. So we got goal specific. The next would be previous injuries. If you have something like, I'll use myself as an example. I have a messed up right shoulder, and that's from loading way too heavy, using shitty form, and doing it over and over and over again, and not taking the time to address it. So if I go back to barbell benching and I try and finally get that 315 pounds, I have no doubt my shoulder will be pissed off and I might need to go to physical therapy, because I just can't do past a certain weight at a certain level of volume to create enough adaptation to get me to that goal without hurting myself. And that's okay. So instead, I'll use a bar like the one I bought from Rogue, which is the MP something. It's basically like a football bar, for those of you that know what that looks like. Imagine the barbell if you put, like, instead of the straight bar, you just kept the ends and put it around a box. And that box had a bunch of neutral grip bars. If you need a better representation of what I'm talking about, I'll put the specific bar in the show notes so you could see what I'm talking about. But what it does for me is that it allows my wrist to line up in a way that takes all the stress off of my shoulders. So I get a more fluid range of motion and I can do more volume without getting hurt, because to create the best adaptation, you need to be able to do as much volume as you possibly can over a period of time to create that adaptation. And if you keep getting hurt over and over and over again, you're doing it wrong. You're taking the wrong road. Find another road that'll take you further. So once you get goal specific, past injuries, it does come down to preference. Like if you do want to gain the most muscle that you possibly can, but you really do love barbell bench press, you could still do it. Like if that's, because preference leads to adherence. If you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to keep doing it. So if it comes down to me being on this podcast and saying you should really, instead of barbell benching, you should really kind of stick to the dumbbells and just do that. And you doing dumbbells results in losing interest in the gym, not going because you don't feel like you get that same sort of ego lift from the barbell than you doing dumbbell bench press for 3-4 times and saying, screw this, I don't really want to go, and doing bench press for years with a barbell. Go with the barbell. As long as, again, we're not hurting, not getting hurt, and it matches your goals, which you can build muscle, you just won't build as much. And if you're willing to make that trade-off, by all means, go for it, because the name of the game is adherence, and you cannot adhere to the program to get all the benefits if you're always getting hurt and if you lose interest. So let that be your guiding light. Does it match the goal? Do any previous injuries rear their ugly head when you do it? What do you prefer to do? And does this all result in you adhering for a long, long time? Those are the only things that matter, not some douchebag in the gym going, oh, that's cheating, or that's not how you really deadlift. So ignore the people that say that, stay far away from them, find the supportive people that will keep you going in the right direction and not have you questioning doing the right thing. And that's where I'll leave it. So thank you guys so much for listening in. I hope you have a great rest of the week. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Go kick some ass. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a 5-star review. If you found the information helpful, go ahead and share it with somebody you think could use it too. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.